It was a stormy night in November 1967 when little Emily Parker, just 6 months old, disappeared from her crib. The rain lashed against the windows of the Parker home in a quiet Ohio suburb, and thunder rumbled like a warning through the night. Her parents, Laura and David Parker, had put her to bed as usual, thinking it was just another ordinary evening. But when Laura went back to check on her at midnight, the crib was empty. The window was slightly ajar, and a faint smell of damp earth lingered in the room. Panic immediately gripped the couple. Every second felt like an eternity as they ran through the house, calling Emily's name only to be met with silence. The neighborhood, though small and close, knit, was thrown into chaos. Lights flicked on in houses all around as neighbors came out, their faces etched with fear and disbelief. Some whispered about strange noises they had heard that night. A faint creak, the sound of soft footsteps. But none had seen anything concrete. The local police arrived quickly, searching the area with flashlights, dogs, and every available officer. But the rain had washed away nearly all traces of evidence. The parents were questioned, neighbors were questioned, but no one had a clue where the baby could have gone. Rumors began to spread, ranging from a desperate kidnapping to something far more sinister lurking in the shadows. As the hours dragged into days, hope began to fade, replaced by a gnawing dread. The Parker family clung to the possibility that Emily might still be alive, but each unanswered call to the police, each fruitless search through woods and back alleys, only deepened the horror of the situation. Flyers were posted on every street corner, and news reports urged anyone with information to come forward. Yet as the investigation grew colder, so did the hearts of those who loved Emily. The community that once felt safe now carried a persistent unease, knowing that something unthinkable had happened in the stillness of that stormy night. And the question that haunted everyone remained: who could have taken her and why? As the years rolled by, the Parker family's life became a delicate balancing act between grief and the need to move forward. Emily's room remained untouched, a haunting reminder of a child who was once part of their world but had vanished without a trace. Her parents tried to find solace in everyday routines. Laura returned to her job at the local library, and David immersed himself in his work. But every corner of their home, every photograph, every toy whispered her name. They clung to memories, replaying every moment of her short life in their minds, desperately hoping for a miracle that never came. Friends and neighbors, once actively searching, slowly drifted away, unable to endure the pain and uncertainty. Meanwhile, the investigation that had once consumed the town gradually faded into obscurity. The evidence, crumpled flyers, the open window, a single strand of hair, was carefully stored in a small, dusty box at the local police department. Detectives who had worked tirelessly on the case retired or were reassigned, and the case files collected layers of dust along with the hopes of a desperate family. New crimes demanded attention, and Emily's disappearance became one of many unsolved mysteries filed away under cold case, without answers. Yet, despite the passage of time, the case never fully left the minds of those who had worked it. The questions lingered, unanswered and unsettling. Decades passed, and Emily's story transformed into a ghost of the community's past. Children grew up hearing whispered accounts of the baby who vanished on a stormy night, and parents quietly checked their own cribs and locks with an extra measure of fear. Laura and David aged, their lives marked by the void left by their daughter's absence. They celebrated holidays quietly, avoided reminders, and carried the weight of unanswered questions with them everywhere. Yet deep down, neither of them could let go entirely. Somewhere, somehow, they still held on to the faint, flickering hope that one day, the story might find its missing piece, and that the truth, long buried by time, could finally emerge. It wasn't until the early 2010s that a glimmer of hope appeared in Emily's decades-old case. Technology had advanced in ways no one could have imagined back in 1967, and cold cases across the country were being cracked with breakthroughs in DNA analysis. Detective Mark Harris, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving the unsolvable, decided to take another look at Emily's disappearance. He pored over the original files, examining every detail, every note, every witness statement, every scrap of evidence that had been preserved. There, amidst the dust and faded photographs, he found something that had been overlooked: a single strand of hair, discovered near the nursery window that night. It had been stored carefully, untouched, waiting for the day science could reveal its secrets. The detective sent the hair to a state-of-the-art lab, knowing that the process could take weeks. Each day stretched into a suspenseful waiting game, as he imagined every possible outcome. Could Emily really still be alive after 43 years? Was it possible to trace her through the tangled web of potential adoptions and records? Harris couldn't shake the sense that the case was on the brink of an extraordinary discovery. Across the country, Emily's family had long given up hope, but he quietly held onto the possibility that modern science could rewrite the ending of a story that had haunted them for generations. Every morning, the detective reviewed the case notes, replaying interviews and imagining the moment when the lab would finally have answers. As the lab worked its silent, meticulous magic, whispers of hope began to circulate among those still connected to the case. Local news outlets occasionally ran stories about the cold case, sparking fleeting interest and old memories in the community. People began to speculate: was Emily alive? Did someone have the answers, hidden in plain sight all these years? Detective Harris, however, remained focused, understanding that the truth would not arrive with fanfare. It would arrive cold, clinical, and undeniable, revealing what had been kept secret for more than 4 decades. The suspense grew with each passing day, as the smallest detail in the evidence could finally unlock the mystery and change lives forever. When the lab finally returned its results, the revelation sent shockwaves through Detective Harris's office. The DNA matched an adult woman living hundreds of miles away under a completely different name. Emily Parker, it seemed, was alive, but no one had any idea where she had been all these years. The adoption records were sealed, leaving only fragments of information for the detective to piece together. Each detail seemed more incredible than the last. A woman who had grown up unaware of her origins, living a normal life, never imagining she had been the missing baby, whose story had haunted an entire community. Harris realized that what had seemed impossible for decades was suddenly within reach. But now came the delicate task of confirming her identity without disrupting the fragile life she had built. Detective Harris moved cautiously, aware that even a hint of the truth could create shockwaves in her life. He began contacting her adoptive family, arranging discreet interviews and background checks. Meanwhile, he gathered the Parker family, now in their 70s, to prepare them for what might be the most emotional moment of their lives. The decades of grief, unanswered questions, and longing were about to converge in a way that no one could have imagined. Every call, every confirmation, every document verified the impossible. Emily Parker had survived, and the threads of her life were about to reconnect with the family she had never known. The suspense hung thick in the air, as if time itself was holding its breath. As the plans for the reunion slowly took shape, subtle questions began to arise. Who had taken Emily, and how had she ended up with an adoptive family so far from her birthplace? How had someone kept the secret for more than 40 years? The answers were buried deep, entangled in the past, and each revelation threatened to upend what everyone thought they knew about the disappearance. Detective Harris understood that uncovering the truth was not just about connecting a missing person with her biological family. It was about unraveling a web of long-hidden secrets, lies, and carefully guarded stories. The tension was almost unbearable, the kind that grips you when a revelation is so close you can almost touch it. But the final twist was still waiting, unseen, ready to shock everyone involved. The day of the reunion arrived with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Laura and David Parker, now older and frailer, waited in a quiet room at the local police station, their hands trembling as they prepared to meet the daughter they had not seen in over 4 decades. Emily, unaware of the full story of her birth, had been brought in discreetly, escorted by Detective Harris, who explained only what was necessary to prevent overwhelming her. As the door opened, time seemed to pause. The moment hung suspended, fragile and electric. When their eyes finally met, emotions spilled over like a dam breaking, tears, gasps, and the weight of 43 years of longing crashed together in a single, overwhelming instant. Yet even amid the joy, a darker realization began to emerge. As Emily recounted fragments of her early life, small inconsistencies and memories resurfaced. Faint impressions of a neighbor she had known in early childhood, a face that seemed familiar but was never explained. Detective Harris carefully pieced together the puzzle, and the horrifying truth became impossible to ignore. The person responsible for her disappearance was not a stranger from another town or a faceless criminal. It was someone who had been in close proximity all along, a neighbor who had maintained a facade of normalcy, blending into the community while hiding a sinister secret. The realization sent chills through everyone in the room. The detective carefully revealed the final pieces of the case, describing how evidence from that night had eventually connected to the neighbor's history, uncovering a pattern of calculated deception and long-buried malice. The Parker family struggled to comprehend how the person they had trusted and waved to over the years had been capable of such an act. Emily herself grappled with a whirlwind of emotions: relief at being found, gratitude toward the detective, but also disbelief and horror at the revelation. The weight of decades of lies, secrets, and hidden truths finally pressed down, and the realization hit with full force. The night that had started as a routine evening in 1967 had changed the lives of so many, leaving scars that only the final revelation could begin to mend. As the Parker family finally embraced the daughter they thought they had lost forever, the room was filled with a mix of tears, relief, and disbelief. But even in this moment of reunion, the shadow of the past lingered, a chilling reminder of how fragile life can be and how secrets can remain hidden for decades. Emily, now a grown woman, looked at the faces of her parents and realized that while the truth had been buried for 43 years, it had finally come to light, bringing justice, closure, and an unbreakable bond that time could never erase. Detective Harris quietly observed, knowing that some mysteries leave scars that never fully heal, but also understanding that uncovering the truth, no matter how long it takes, can change lives forever. The story of Emily Parker serves as a haunting reminder that the past is never truly gone, and that sometimes the answers we seek are waiting patiently, hidden in the shadows, until the moment we are ready to face them. And so, after more than 4 decades of questions, fear, and uncertainty, one family's unimaginable pain gave way to a bittersweet victory. A story of loss, discovery, and the unshakable truth that no secret can remain hidden forever.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.